Live from Global Edmonton, the morning news continues. Here are Shay Ghanem and Jennifer Crosby.
Premier Alison Redford took to the airwaves last night to warn Albertans of tough fiscal times ahead. The Premier says the difference between the benchmark price for oil in North America versus Alberta's oil sands bitumen has grown so wide the government will take in $6 billion less in revenue this year alone.
So as we prepare this year's budget, it means we have to make some very difficult choices. In this year's budget, we'll hold the line on our spending and we'll live within our means.
And we're joined now by Premier Alison Redford. I really appreciate you getting up so early to join us. Good morning. I'm just curious, what did you tell Albertans last night that we didn't already know?
Well, it was really important last night to have a conversation with Albertans about what the differential means, how recently the differential has changed, and what that means in terms of our revenue, because we've talked about the fact that we are going to have to make some difficult choices. But what we haven't yet said to Albertans is that it is going to be a $6 billion difference. And one of the reasons we could only do that now, of course, is because we track the price of oil and what that differential is on a day-by-day basis, and we now have a very clear idea as to what that means as we put our budget together in the next month.
So you confirmed $6 billion less in revenue. You also said the government would live within its means, or to quote, live within our means. Yeah. You said some programs and services will change, but you didn't offer many specifics. Why were you so vague?
Well, because the point of last night was to make sure that we were all on the same page in terms of how we go forward. January is traditionally when government sets the budget, and so that's the work that we're doing right now. And quite honestly, we're doing that work every single day. Cabinet ministers started working back in December. They worked through Christmas. Public servants worked through Christmas. We came back very early in the new year to do all of this work. And we're working with stakeholders right now to make sure that the decisions that we make impact people as little as possible, because it's important for us not to disproportionately impact families, communities, infrastructure, our hospitals, our schools. And so every single day we're making the tough choices right now.
Do those tough choices involve a cut in real spending, or will there be a cut in just the increase in spending?
Well, we think that as we move forward with 100,000 new people coming to the province every year, that even holding our spending is going to be tough. And that's what I said last night, that even if we can hold our spending where it is, it's still going to have an impact on what we do. You know, we're dealing right now, of course, with negotiations related to doctors, to public servants, to teachers. Doctors and teachers mean an awful lot to families in this province, but we're getting to the point where we simply can't afford to keep paying doctors 20% more than doctors are getting paid in the rest of the country. And these are the sorts of decisions that we're going to have to make in order to allow everything to be sustainable in the next couple of years.
And I understand when you spoke last night about the differential, and it's something that the finance minister has been talking about the last month. But when we talk to economists, they say that risk was there a year ago. We perhaps didn't anticipate how fast it would be realized. But
yeah.
Let's go back to, for instance, the election. There were a lot of promises made based on the budget at the time.
Yep.
Why was that risk not built into the budget at the time?
Well, the risk is always built into the budget. We've lived in Alberta all of our lives, and we know that there's volatility in the price of oil. We always build in the risk as to the volatility. But if you look at that graph last night, what you see is in the middle of October something very different happening, something that's never happened before, which is that the price for West Texas Intermediate and the price that we're getting didn't run in parallel. There was actually a split. And that's very different than we've ever seen before. Of course, the federal Conservatives dealt with the same issue. They talked about a $6 billion change in their revenue projections. Saskatchewan has the same problem. It was something that economists didn't even anticipate. We always build in risk because we want to make sure that we're being responsible, that we're being prudent, and that we're being accountable to taxpayers. But that was something incredibly different than we've ever seen before.
So that brings up an interesting point, because you mentioned also last night how reliable we are on resource revenue. And we're sort of, held hostage almost to the volatility, and we've seen extreme volatility now. You spoke also about focusing on growing pipeline capacity and the Canadian energy strategy, but you also said you wouldn't raise taxes. So what about what we heard last night would make Albertans think we are going to be any less reliable on resources as we move forward?
Well, You know, in Alberta for a long time we've talked about what economic diversification looks like, about how we use the resources that we have to build a different economy in the future. And what happens very often in this province is that politicians talk about that, and then the price of oil goes up and everyone goes, well, thank goodness. We don't have to worry about that anymore, right? I mean, it's cyclical. And what we're saying is it doesn't matter anymore. We're going to make sure that we're investing in research, in innovation, working with our universities, putting applied research into place so that we can have a knowledge-based economy that's connected to things like nanotechnology, biomedical research, things that are not connected directly to oil and gas revenue. That's going to be the future for our province.
And before we go, I'll just ask you a question that a lot of Edmontonians are interested in. This week, we're following the arena debate.
Yes.
We have a deal framework finally in place, but there is the question of that missing $100 million. When we spoke to Finance Minister Doug Horner last, he said the government was looking at different options, gaming and lottery options. I'm wondering, though, how you can justify creating a new source of revenue in these type of fiscal times and not directing it towards program spending if, cuts are in the foreseeable future.
Well, we're not doing that. Our position on the arena has been very clear. We believe that communities can make choices with respect to their investments, that as a provincial government, we provide MSI money, Municipal Sustainability Initiative money, and it's up to communities to decide how they want to spend that money. We're not looking to try to create different programs that are going to channel money directly to arenas. We've been very consistent with respect to that. MSI is the way that we can support infrastructure projects in communities, and communities need to make the choice as to what their priorities are. I think it's a great thing that the city is moving ahead with the arena, and there's certainly funding that's available, but it's funding through MSI, and communities will have to make their choices, whether it's Edmonton or anyone else.
So nothing in addition to MSI coming then?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank
Premier.
you.
I really appreciate you coming in this morning.
Nice to see you.